Hello guys, welcome back to another Nioh 2 video, and I'm quite excited about this one because we've come full circle back to the Tonfa finally, and I've left this one till late because I wanted it to be a good one and I'm very happy with how this one turned out. It's probably the most balanced of the builds I've done so far, but more importantly it's a hell of a lot of fun, and unlike most builds, this one utilises a huge amount of mechanics within the Tonfa's moveset, allowing us to focus on any of the specific playstyles of Tonfa or utilise them all viably. It's extremely tanky but also extremely strong in terms of damage output. So as I'm talking about all of these things, I'll show you things like the stats and certain abilities, but keep in mind we'll come back to them and discuss them in greater detail later in the video, so don't worry. First I'll show you some of the synergistic examples, first looking at them from a defensive perspective. We have direct damage mitigation whilst attacking coming from 3-piece Onishibata, which is a minus 10% damage taken mid-attack, another 10% from Onryoki Soko, and another 7.5% from Inasaseo as our second Spirit Guardian, so 27.5% damage mitigation whilst attacking, then a 3% direct damage taken reduction from a 3-piece Eye of Elegance, then stacking defense bonus on Amrita Gauge from a 3-piece Demon Incarnate, and also coming from a tempered roll on the chest piece. We then have the Water Buffalo Horn Helmet, which activates a defense buff on life gained, which is something that we always have active as we heal every time we hit, as well as when absorbing Amrita, so this buff acts very similar to the Dual Swords Mystic Art. We then have a defense bonus based on Courage on both of our accessories. We also have 99 points in Constitution, and on top of all of this we have an 80% chance to have any damage received halved if we're at full health when we get hit by it. So combined with other damage reduction modifiers, when we're at full health we're capable of completely negating damage from single hits. We also have another minus 38% damage taken when at critical health coming from tempered rolls and on our Tonfa passive skills in the Tonfa tree. Also keep in mind that the Tonfa is the best weapon for avoiding damage entirely due to its mid-attack evasion with Demon Dance, so all in all this build is most definitely worthy of the Immortal title. I've not even come close to dying once whilst playing this build. We also have huge amounts of healing coming from life recovery on Amrita Absorption rolled onto our chest and Yasakani Magatama, as well as life drain on active skill rolled onto our weapon. We then have huge amounts of damage coming from 3 stackable passive buffs in Tenjin, Amrita Absorption in High Stance, the Yamanba Soul Core which activates an attack buff when we use it, as well as our Tonfa Mystic Art that activates a third during cumulative damage, i.e. multiple hits, which is obviously the entire moveset of the Tonfa, and yes, all 3 of these buffs do stack. We of course have a dual scaled weapon with 99 in 2 stats being Courage and Constitution, with attack bonus Constitution A+, 12% melee damage to saturate enemies, 28% extra skill damage, and then 49.5% specific skill damage, in this case Devastation. So Devastation just with skill damage modifiers is hitting 70% harder, not including any of the other damage modifiers mentioned, and you of course don't have to maximize Devastation, you can use any Tonfa skill of your preference. If you were going to choose another skill to prioritize, I would recommend Pulverize Heaven. Pulverize Heaven is the ability that you're mostly going to be using on static bosses, as anything you do is going to combo into this via Demon Dance on Key Pulse. However, the reason I chose to prioritize Devastation is for the same reason I prioritized Groundquake on my Odachi build over Imperative Strike or Moonlit Snow. These main abilities already do amazing damage if you build correctly, and if you're only farming bosses or trying to make edited videos where people can't actually see how good you are or how you play through entire missions, then maximizing these skills are going to be of most value. However, I want these builds to feel complete, to work across the entire game against humans, against yokai, for speedrunning missions, for long casual fun missions, for solo, for multiplayer. The most important thing in that situation is having a very powerful ability that is also very fast to throw out. So every weapon will have one ability like that. For Adachi it's Groundquake, for Tonfa it's Devastation, so it gives you the most bang for your buck, quite literally if you're using Tonfa Gun. Now Tonfa Gun isn't going to be your main DPS ability on bosses, but can, when optimized, one-shot anything that isn't a boss. So in some cases for elite enemies you just need to add it at the end of a short combo, but it's the most efficient way to dispatch enemies fast, and that's why I prioritize it over Pulverize Heaven in terms of skill damage modifiers. But again, if I were only concerned with boss fights, then I would prioritize Pulverize. So let's go over the gear and the stats needed in full. So you will of course be needing a Yasakani Magatama for the reduction to set bonus requirements. You need 2 pieces of Onishibata for the 3-piece set bonus to the Bold and the Boorish, 2-piece Demon Horde for the 3-piece bonus to Demon Incarnate, the Water Buffalo Horn Helmet for the defense buff on life gained, the Warrior of the West Bow for 2-piece life increase, Then optionally the Nioh rifle with Wisdom Sutra sword and Plain Cutter dual swords for the 3-piece set bonus to Exemplary Eye for Elegance. You can then use any Tonfa of your choosing. I say any because we are using the water talisman for our water damage anyway, but I run water imbued Tonfas just because sometimes I'm moving and killing so fast that I don't even feel the need to buff the weapon. So you can actually just take any Tonfa you want, but for the tempered stats on the weapon, saturation accumulation, active skill consumption, Tonfa gun, which again you don't have to use, this is optional. You'll get by just fine with any of the core abilities being Heavenly Chain into Demon Dance Pulverized, even Wild Lions. So life drain on active skill, attack bonus, constitution or courage. You 100% want this over any skill damage modifier, as this is a direct increase to all melee damage and you're using a lot of different moves within the Tonfa's moveset. So I also slapped on a gold inheritable of break for human enemies, but you can put whatever you want there. Our secondary weapon is ignored as it's just there for the set bonus. So for both ranged weapons, but more specifically the one that's active, you want a roll of damage bonus agility. If you care about the stats on your ranged weapons beyond that, I preference weapon speed up, movement speed whilst aiming, direct damage increase. I don't have the damage increase on my rifle because I just switched these in at the last minute, but that's something I would add on with gold inheritables. On the helmet, life increase, key increase, inherited devastation damage, defense, gold inherited attack, and gold inherited running speed. Now take note, alongside devastation damage and attack increase, I've also inherited running speed onto all of my gear. With how sick this build feels in terms of its tankiness and damage output, having running speed inherited onto all of my gear is just the icing on the cake. It just feels so good, man. I can't even explain it. This is of course entirely optional and you could put something more practical here. So moving on to our chest piece, gold inherited running speed, life recovery on Amrita absorption, damage taken at critical, defense bonus based on Amrita gauge. Now these three here are the most important on the chest piece in terms of build synergy. Definitely have all three of these on your chest piece. We then have our inherited devastation and gold inherited attack increase. On the gloves, tenacity, an optional roll of Amrita earned. Let me know if there's anything else you think I could put in here, because I couldn't find anything better considering the rest of the rolls we have. Defense increase, attack increase, which can roll native on gloves, gold inherited running speed, and inherited devastation, as only light armor gloves can roll specific skill damage natively. On the waist, dodge key consumption, running speed, key recovery bonus based on Amrita gauge, life increase, gold inherited attack, and inherited devastation. On the legs, dodge key consumption, defense, faster winded recovery, inherited devastation damage, gold inherited attack increase, and running speed. So for our accessories, I think I forgot to mention I'm using Toshi's Abacus because it's more speed, 90% plus movement speed on enemy killed. And for the stats, we want defense based on courage, key increase, burn accumulation. Now I'm taking this because I also carry fire shuriken alongside the water talisman to allow me to easily proc confusion on enemies. So you don't need this, but if you want to mimic my playstyle, this will be important as it means only needing 2 shurikens to proc burning on most enemies that aren't resistant to fire. Okay, so finally, life increase, and on our Yasakani Megatama, saturation accumulation, key increase, defense bonus based on courage, and life recovery on Amrita absorption. So for our spirits and soul cores, I'm not even going to give you the whole disclaimer thing on Tenjin. I know it's controversial, but this is the most serious build I've made, so I'm using the most serious spirit, and Tenjin is just the best spirit for this build. It's not even close. And yes, I did try a lot of other spirits. If you really want to know what came in second place, it was Namihime, but that would be a whole other build setup and it's not even close to as strong as this, so run Tenjin. Our second spirit guardian is Ina Saseo for the damage reduction mid attack, and the cores on our main spirit are on Ryoki for the 10% damage reduction mid attack, Gyuki for the melee damage to saturated enemies, and finally Yamanba, not for the stats but because of its active ability that gives you a very nice attack buff when activated. So against tougher encounters I always open with this. It's also very low cost, meaning you'll never be in a situation where you can't use it, especially given the amount of anima generation that we have. But the only situation I can think of where you might not be able to use it is if you literally just booted up the mission that is a direct boss encounter, which means you of course start with 0 anima, in which case you'll just want to pop a plant fruit before engaging and you're good to go. So take note, in order to run all 3 of these cores, you'll need at least one of these cores to have a secondary role of attunement cost reduction, and don't worry, it's very easy to get because both Onryoki and Yamanba are super easy to farm. Onryoki can be farmed on the final submission and it's a very fast mission, and Yamanba can be farmed near the second shrine in the mission Mysterious One Night Castle. You have to walk through a room that has a Yamanba in it in order to access the second shrine, so once you get to that shrine you just reset it and run back to the room to farm it. So for jutsu, my ninjutsu consists of Fire Shuriken, Tiger Running Scrolls and Quick Change Scrolls. The Fire Shuriken are to help me prop confusion, Tiger Running for sprinting through missions, Quick Change Scrolls aren't even needed, but they're just added security in case things were to go spectacularly wrong. For our Omyo, Water Talisman and Extraction Talisman, that's all you need. The Water Talisman and Extraction Talismans should be on your main wheel, as these should be active during most encounters. Now I also run Rejuvenation Talismans, but that's nothing to do with the build. You have enough life regen as it is. I just run these for multiplayer to help support allies, as I have the upgrade that lets me heal them. So in regard to the Tonfa skill tree, abilities you might want to pick up are Wild Lions, Focus Strike, which is a fantastic finisher and demolishes human enemies, Fleetfoot if you like to switch into low stance a lot. I say low stance and not mid stance because mid stance is the only stance that I have zero need to utilize, as it offers me absolutely nothing. It's only good for the parries, which are not even needed on Tonfa just because of how easy it is to beat humans through offensive skills rather than defensive skills, and the hidden ability Storm of Strikes also isn't even that good. I just run it on certain stances because it looks cool, to be honest. But things you definitely need and absolutely must have, depending on your stance. You want Demon Dance. I highly suggest picking up all 3 of these for each stance, as stance switch fluxing is a thing. So Pulverize, in this case Pulverize Heaven, as my main stance is going to be high stance. Heavenly Chain is probably the best opener to transition into Pulverize from, and the mystic art you want is Apocalypse. Now if I wasn't running such a tanky build, I would be running the other mystic art, Kanagi, because this lets you animation cancel into Demon Dance, meaning you can evade attacks whenever you want, which is absolutely amazing. However, because we're already immortal, this would be a complete waste, so we're taking Apocalypse for that sick attack buff, which is always active through consecutive attacks. You of course, if you're running my playstyle, want to pick up Devastation. So fortunately, none of the other trees are relevant to the build, so I don't need to show you much. Only the really obvious things like the Flux and Flux 2 in the Samurai tree, Key Pulse Heaven, Earth and Man for all stances, as well as Purify Yokai Realm for all stances, but you should have all of this stuff anyway, no matter what weapon or build you're playing, especially Purify Yokai Realm Heaven, as the attack buff you get from this is really significant, and all of my playstyles for all of my weapons tend to prioritize moves that transition from a Key Pulse, which is why, for example, on Adachi, I prefer Imperative Strike to Moonlit Snow, because moves like that just synergize so much better with abilities like this. So anyway, moving on to our clan, we are of course using Honda for the 28% increase to skill damage, but also the much slept on bonus of 80% chance to halve damage received when at full health. So this is what allows us to take practically 0 damage from attacks that hit us at full health, because of the 50% damage reduction that is then being combined with all of the other percent based damage reduction modifiers that we have stacked onto the build. So along with life regen, which we also have, you should always be at full health when you get hit anyway. I almost forgot to show you the core stats, so a quick look at those. I'm level 300, but we'll explain what to prioritize. So first of all, you want to make sure you forge all of your armor so as to reduce cost requirements. If you loot armor from bosses or other sources, they're going to have much higher requirements than if you were to forge them from a smithing tech, so I highly suggest you forge all of your armor. Then with 45 points in stamina and 7 points in strength, I'm seeing at 69.8% encumbrance, which gives us B agility rating. So if you don't know, 70% and below is the encumbrance that you need in order to meet B agility rating, which is going to help us with our key management and dodging and things like that. From there, we prioritize courage, which is our main Tonfa stat. I also maxed out constitution, and from there dual scaled my weapon to scale with both courage and constitution, so my weapon is now doing more damage than if it were just scaled with courage. 15 magic is enough for me to carry all the Omyo I need. Dexterity is the final scaling stat for Tonfa. Everything else is either stat requirements from gear or spirit guardians, though having some points in heart is good anyway for key increase. And that's pretty much the build, guys. If I've forgotten anything, feel free to ask in the comments and I'll do my best to reply to you directly. You're also welcome to leave any suggestions on what you'd like to see next. As always, you can catch us over on Instagram and Twitch, just search Xenoswarm on the relevant platforms. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, as that really helps me out, and if you're not already subscribed, consider doing so for more Nioh 2 content coming soon. Okay guys, until next time, stay safe and take care.